Well, good afternoon. I guess we're in the afternoon. Yes, we are. Welcome to our February Pasco Chamber membership luncheon. My name is Colin Hastings, and we're pleased today to have our keynote speaker as Pasco Police Chief Ken Roske. So at this time, I would invite you to join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. You may have a seat. We have a few elected officials that I'd like to acknowledge their presence here today. I know that from Franklin County, we have Commissioner Rocky Mullen. Rocky, let's give him a round of applause. Thanks for showing up. I saw that Sean Sant, our Franklin County prosecutor, RSVP'd, but I haven't seen him walk in yet. He might be caught in court. Franklin PUD Commissioner Stu Nelson. There's Stu out there. There's Stu. I'd say you don't have to clap for him, but I guess we kind of have to. We started that going. And then Port of Pasco Commissioner Jim Clinworth. And we have a few of our board members that are joining us here today. Rob DiPiazza with Hometown Values, Janet Mick, Rolando Rodriguez, and there's a few that RSVP'd, Christina Vieira, and but I know James and Kim, I haven't seen her yet, but we appreciate your commitment, volunteering and being on our board of directors and helping guide the Pasco Chamber on behalf of all its members. So thank you so much for your service. I want to give a little update of the Pasco Chamber since it's been a while since we met. We didn't have a luncheon in January. We're back on track again. And a few things have happened since December, since we last had a chance to chat. And more than a few weeks ago, we had our Ag Hall of Fame here at the Red Lion. We had an excellent turnout. If you didn't have a chance to be a part of it, it is still live on YouTube and on our website too, if you want to see some of the inductions and award presentations. Like I said, it's a really good turnout. You know, I would say the highlight is the Martinez family showing up in full force. They had their mom and dad inducted, Zenaida and Angelica Martinez, and what a great story, and they shared a lot of stories, and they probably were, of the 325 folks in attendance, they were probably responsible for 80 of the folks there, so it was really fun with the check-in. You know, when you have a big turnout, you know, you have the name tag separated from, you know, A to D and C through, you know, so on and so forth. But we had a special section that was just Martinez, and it was kind of fun. I got a kick out of that. Got some good pictures of that too. But it was neat to get that back on track, the Ag Hall of Fame, since we didn't do it last year, and it was great to see such a good turnout for that, and what a excellent group of inductees for 21, 22 too. So we're excited to get that going. And another thing too that if you haven't seen coming into Pasco from the north is there's this big new billboard that's been up now for a few months, and a lot of effort, a lot of responsibility to that is, of course, the godfather of the Pasco Chamber, Ed Ray, that really pushed us to do something like that. And the timing couldn't be better, because if you've been living under a rock, you know that there's a lot of things that are coming to Pasco in terms of, you know, businesses and jobs and housing. I mean, it's the growth is just amazing, and I know for the future of our luncheons and stuff, you'll be hearing more and more of all the stuff that's happening in Pasco. So the timing couldn't be better. Really appreciative of Balcom and Mo and Jared Balcom for providing the land for that billboard as well too. But now the next step is to get some lights on that, especially this time of year. We're really excited to finally get that in the ground, and of course it's during the time of year when the sun's not up that much. And so we have a request out there that some of you might have seen in your membership renewals. If you have a few extra coins sitting around to help us raise some money to get the lighting, it's not it's not as simple as you would think it would be. Obviously, we have to get industrial grade. It's a very large sign if you haven't seen that. So there's a little bit of a lift and a cost to that. And so we're hoping that the Pasco Chamber members can kind of help us over the top. And I think we're going to get close, and we'll eventually do that real soon. So I know there's some pamphlets on the table. So if you have any interest and you want to talk to me more about that, be happy to share with you some more of that information. And then one other item that I wanted to share with everyone here, this Thursday, you should have received an invitation. It's an invitation to the Pasco Business Roundtable. It's an opportunity for business owners to sit and have a good discussion, a breakfast discussion with our leaders in Pasco, from the department heads, maybe a couple council members. They want feedback of where things are going in Pasco and some ideas and so forth. And so we have actually a pretty good turnout so far of people that are interested in signing up. If you're interested in joining us, it's this Thursday at the Best Western. It's a breakfast, so at 7:30 a.m. I'd love to have you be a part of that. Reach out to me and we'll get you signed up. We are limited in space because it's not at the Red Lion that has ample amounts of space. We're at the Best Western, so we do request that if you're going to have a business representation there, you just keep it to 2 people, and so on and so forth. We'll just go ahead and go from there, but reach out to me and we'll get you signed up. I think it'll be a really productive meeting. It's the first time we've done this in a couple years. I know that City Council really uses that information gained from these roundtables to help guide policy making in the future as well too. So it's a good opportunity to be a part of that. And then it's kind of cool to see that we have quite a bit of membership growth going on at the Pasco Chamber too. It's been very steady, especially during a time when, 2 years ago, there's a lot of uncertainty and things have been going very well for that matter. And there's a lot of different areas as to why we can give credit to that, but it's a good thing to do. I know that we have board members like Rob they're always reaching out and helping us get new members. I think our social media presence is gained, and that's helped a lot, but a lot of it is because of what you guys do and what the city of Pasco is doing and what's going on in Pasco too. I think people see that this is a place to be, and we're really excited for that. So with that, I know that there is one new member that is here, and I think she just, Antoinette? Okay, Antoinette, I'm going to put you right on the spot now. So one of our new members is Virgie Robinson Scholarship Fund, and they recently joined the Pasco Chamber. You're going to hear a little bit more from Antoinette in a moment, but before we do that, I'd like to have Antoinette, if you don't mind coming up, and I want to present to you a plaque. Obviously, Ricky didn't give her the heads up that this might happen. Kim, you can't go too far either. But I have a feeling in the next few months you're going to see a lot of these new members, so we really appreciate the support that you guys provide and getting to know them and having them part of the Pasco Chamber and why everything's so great and why it's good to do some networking here within the Pasco Chamber. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our MC for the rest of the program. Kim Fall of Conover Insurance, which is a division of Hub, is our 21-22 president of the Pasco Chamber of Commerce, and she's going to lead us through the rest of the program. Let's give her a warm round of applause.
Hello, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you were all nice to your Valentine today, whoever that may be. So glad to see you here. Glad to see the sun out. It looks like it must have been raining and I missed it. So anyway, good to see y'all. And then we have a community spotlight. We're going to ask Antoinette to come on back up here. Oh, thank you. Talk about a little bit of golf, which everybody loves to talk about golf. Except me, I'm a very bad golfer. Thank you.
Thank you. First off, I'm so sorry you guys got me. I hate this kind of thing, but Ricky couldn't make it over the mountains to be here, so sorry. And I forgot to put my glasses back on, so I can't see that. So I'm with Virgie Robinson Memorial Scholarship Board. Virgie Robinson, the newish elementary school in East Pasco. Virgie was my grandmother's first cousin. We called her Aunt Virgie. So most of the board is made up of relatives, and our goal is creating scholarships, fundraisers, creating scholarships for students who attend Virgie Robinson. Doesn't matter what high school they go to, but they have to have at least spent 1 year at Virgie Robinson Elementary, and they can apply for our scholarship when they're seniors. Our first scholarship was in 2006, I believe, and we had just enough to do one scholarship. Over the years, we've given multiple scholarships each year. The last time was 2019, one scholarship, because that's all that applied for some reason. And then, of course, COVID hit. We haven't been able to do our fundraisers. We're hoping to do that again this year. It looks like we've got the green light for the golf course. That's our big fundraising opportunity. And so that will be in April. And I think there's dates in the slideshow somewhere. The initial board members were her children and her grandniece that she raised as a daughter. Some of you may have gone to high school with them. They're all Pasco High graduates. And that's the current board. And again, Ricky, the president, put this together. He probably would have had jokes and all kinds of stuff. He probably knows a lot more of you. I think I know 2 people. But that's the current board. I am the newest member. And yep, that talks about the first scholarship, I think. And we did find out that Angela most recently worked for the Kennewick School District. So we're kind of proud of that one of our scholarship winners went into education. I think those are speaker notes, but kind of what I said. We had small scholarships to begin with. We've given bigger ones over the years, thanks to the golf tournament. The golf tournament is coming up again. I don't know if you can see that, Colin. April 20th, I think is the date. Or is that the date of the first one? Okay. So around that same time, 3rd week in April, I think, we try to do a meet and greet the Friday night. We have a charity auction that'll go the week leading up. People donate items, and you can do online bidding, and that adds to the scholarship money. So you guys can check out the Virgie Robinson Memorial webpage if you're interested. If we have any golfers, I think the teams, there's like $150 registration fee if you want to go out and have a good time. Golf, there is a trophy at the end. Those are some pictures from past tournaments. We've had like Seattle Seahawk players come and golf at our tournaments. We've had some NBA guys come out and golf. So you never know, you might see someone. That was the new flyer, yeah, there we go. 23rd, I was close. Then the golf is, like a Saturday morning, and then sometimes there's an award presentation right after, and sometimes there's like a barbecue thing. I don't know what we'll do this year with COVID. It might just be the golf and the awards, but I think that is it. I don't know if anyone's doing questions. You probably don't want to ask me questions. You can email them, and Ricky can answer it.
Which golf course is it at?
Sun Willows. Yes. Yeah. And we hope to have a block of rooms here and at Beth's Western we do get out-of-town golfers, and like I said, sometimes ex-Seahawks players. We've had some NBA players in the past that have connections to people here in the area, so that always makes it really nice. We done?
everybody sign up to golf. That's a great cause, so. Might see important people too, or fun people anyway, so. All right, well, I get the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker today, Mr. Ken Roske, the Chief of Police. Was appointed the Pasco Police Chief in October of 2019, becoming the first police chief chosen from within the department in the last 50 years. I actually did not know that. I was actually present when you were announced as the winner in that small room. That was fun to be there. With a department of 94 employees that continues to grow, Chief Roske oversees a department that strives at leading progressive, community-centric policing, innovations focusing on public safety. Chief Roske started his career with the Pasco Police Department in 1986. First serving as a police officer where he worked in multiple assignments as a canine handler, field training officer, and later advancing to sergeant and watch commander. Continuing through his career at Pasco, he was promoted to a captain in 2004, spending time overseeing both field operations and support operations. In 2017, he was promoted to deputy chief where he oversaw internal operations and community outreach. During this time, he successfully led the police department through state and national accreditation programs, making Pasco one of only 2 police agencies in Washington state to achieve dual accreditation through WASPC and CALEA. The latter, yeah. So anyway, big round of applause. We're so glad you're here today.
Thank you. They said the clicker's up. Oh, right there. I got it. Well, thank you very much. What a great welcome, and I don't know where they found all that information, but that's nice to have such a warm welcome like that. And it's nice to be here with a group of friends. Sometimes I meet people, talk to people, and it's nice to have a close group like you guys. I know many of you out there. The rest of you, I know your heart's in Pasco and making sure that Pasco is a vibrant place to bring businesses, to raise your families, and we're here as the police department to partner with you in that. I'm going to give you, we're going to talk a little bit about the state of policing, but before I do that, I want to start out with a qualifier. I'll have some data up here, some numbers on some crime numbers, some legislative initiatives and stuff that might sound negative. I want you to know that as I'm giving this information, the police department and this community is greatly supported. Our community, each of you out there, supports this police department and what we do. You might hear national rhetoric over the last few years on cable news channels and stuff. That is not our community here, and please don't let any of my information leave you with a negative annotation. There's elected officials seated out in the audience, our council, hugely supportive of the police department. So I just want to make sure that as I'm going on, you don't leave here with a bad taste in your mouth or that you get some kind of negative connotation. So with that, let's get started. I've got the clicker here. I don't know which one I clicked, but oh, that must be it. So in a professional police department and in a police department that's ready for growth in the future, it starts with core mission, vision, and value statements that our department developed 2 years ago when I became chief. We came together, talked about what do we want to be, where do we want to go. We talked to our community, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but here's what I want you to know, is at 2 o'clock in the morning, when a police officer is out there and he is trying to interpret the policies and procedures that we have, and there's a lot of them, 80-some chapters, all the laws on the books, nobody is perfect. But you need to know that as long as our officers aren't violating their mission, vision, and values, as the police chief, we can get over that. We can retrain you, we can recoach you. Maybe the policy was bad. But I want you to know that the officers out there every night adhere to this, and this is the standard that I hold them to when I'm looking at their performance and what they're doing out there every day. So that's just kind of a baseline to start with. So we've had a busy couple years. Certainly COVID, a lot of things going on in the state, in the country. And then you combine that with just everything that Pasco has going on, the growth, the energy, all of that. Well, that translates right into the police department. And so let's just talk a little bit about some of our accomplishments. It was mentioned about our national and state accreditation. We've maintained that. That's a big undertaking, but it's all about being a professional police department and being held to a national standard. I think in the introduction they had mentioned one of two states, or one of two police departments in the state that have dual accreditation, a state accreditation and a national accreditation. That's the University of Washington and us that have both of those. So it's more than a bragging point. It's about performance, it's about accountability, and it's about ensuring that the public can trust what we are doing and it's validated and verified. As we looked at growth and where the department's going to go, just like the businesses that are out here, you're doing the same thing that we're doing. What are you going to do to prepare for the future? How are you going to plan for the massive onslaught of what Pasco has to offer? They were talking about the growth earlier on with Amazon and the likes. We're doing the same thing in the police department. How do we prepare for the next 3, 4, 5 years, and even beyond? So we've employed a company to help us with a strategic plan. That's just wrapping up now. This spring we should have the final document ready for council to present to council. But I mention that only because just like you, the police department is focused on the future and doing everything we can do to make sure that we aren't reactive. I think government tends to be reactive, so we are doing everything we can do to not be reactive and try and be forward-thinking in our planning and our strategic vision for where this police department's going to be, so that we can walk together with the community and be ready for what's next. Some of the fun things that we've undertaken is trying to find a way to maximize technology. There's a whole presentation I could give you on technology, but I just put the unmanned aerial program up there only because it's proven extremely beneficial already, and it's only been launched for 6 or 7 months, where we can take and launch aerial drones to help our officers with public safety, maybe search and rescue. In traditional times, we would have to put man-hours searching a field for a lost person or whatever. We can now use that with a drone and aerial aircraft. So I think we have 8 pilots and 6 pieces of aircraft that we can launch at any time in the city. Just as the most recent one was the Fred Meyers incident in Richland. We launched a drone over there to help do an overwatch in case we had more information on where the subject had gone and stuff. So great piece of resource, and like I said, there's a whole piece of technology. Just want you to know that we are looking at every piece of technology that's out there to maximize our efforts. Training, building, and a headquarters strategic or facility study is underway right now. We just started that. As many of you might remember, in 2017 we moved into a new police department. We will have outgrown that police department in 2 to 3 years with the projected growth of staff. So what does headquarters expansion look like? And then training of police officers, training of our staff, regional training to that matter is void in Eastern Washington unless you get up to Spokane. There is no regional training center. There is no regional place for law enforcement to train without going to Burien in Seattle or Spokane. So we're going to see if we can do a strategic plan. We know we need to expand our headquarters. We know we need to remodel our existing training building for our officers and staff to accommodate the growth. So while we're at it, why don't we look at a regional approach? Why don't we look at a way to ensure that all of law enforcement in this region is trained to the highest of standards? So that's a project that's underway right now. Social media. That's an animal on its own. Every business out here understands they're trying to chase social media and what's next on the horizon. We're no different. We're trying to stay abreast of what's out there. What's the next thing that people are going to click on? Whether I like it or I don't like it, it's a matter of fact. And if we're going to have positive engagement with our community, we have to accept the fact that we have to stay abreast of social media. And we put a team together inside the department that focuses literally on what that's going to look like. How can we shape the image of our community? Share information, of course, but shape that image and get that out there. And we constantly are looking at new avenues and new venues for that. So hopefully you all follow us on our Instagram and our Facebook and our Twitter feeds, but understand that that's a challenge. About the time we think we get it figured out, there's a new turn, and whatever generation you pick has decided to click in a different fashion, so we have to pivot with that generation and move with them. When we're looking at getting police information out to the public, when we're looking at what our image is, social media is huge all across the platform. So just know that even though we've been in the social media business a long time, we aren't sitting back. We are continuing to evolve and look at new platforms and formats and ways to do it. Mental health challenges. We just, in this side of the river, both sides of the river, just passed a county tax that's going to help us address this. I put this up here only because it is an issue that is burning for all of us. And both sides of the river, both counties, are in the process right now of putting work groups together to figure out how we're going to best spend those dollars to maximize the resources. As the police chief, my selfish pitch is that we actually get services to people that need those. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, when all the other social services have closed and they don't have to answer their phone on Christmas, we're the only ones that have to. When you call 911 on Christmas, we're going to come. Other social service groups have great efforts or great resources, maybe even better than we do, but we're the ones that are going to come. So as a police chief, my goal and my mission for both sides of the river, and what I will preach, is that we look at ways for officers, deputies, at 2 o'clock in the morning when people need help, we can get them help. And help is not the back of a police car, help is not an emergency room, and help is not jail. There are certainly times and places for those, but there are many times when we need to get them to a triage center out of the back of a police car, and it's not an emergency room or a jail. So I don't want to beat that up, other than to let you know that I'm very excited about where this metro area is going to move with this combined effort. And so I'm looking forward to some positive things there. I know that many of you have followed the last couple of years. Washington State had some pretty drastic changes in legislation. And so we have worked to stay abreast of those legislative changes, to earnestly take what the legislature has put into effect and translate those into the field and operations. It's not as easy as it sounds, but we work constantly, and it's a daunting effort, unfunded mandates that get thrown down to the local level that we now have to spin and implement. And we have done that. And we have every piece of legislation that the legislature passed last year, we have pivoted and implemented. I'll be honest, as a police chief, Some of them are detrimental to public safety. But we did what the legislature told us. So just know that we continue to focus on that. The legislature is in session right now to make many positive changes. I'm hopeful that there's positive changes coming, although I certainly understand politics and I know what happens at 2 o'clock in the morning in Olympia. And most of us will want to go take a shower after that, but we're hoping that we get some nice positive changes. So I applaud the legislature for actually looking at what occurred last year and ways that they can fix that. Let me check my clock here because I got a couple of slides I want to go over and I'm running out of time here. I put branding and image up there real quick. I just want you to know that if you're bringing businesses in, if you're bringing family and relatives in, we take the image of Pasco, the police department, we take the image of Pasco extremely serious. And the brand and the image of the police officers that are out there every day is at the forefront of what we do. Your police cars are going to look nice. Your officers are going to look good. They're going to have a nice personality about them. Obviously, they have to deal with the worst of the worst that society has to offer. But what we remind our officers is that's such a small percentage of the people that you interact with. Most of the people that you're interacting with are great, outstanding community members, and that's how we're going to treat them. So, okay. Trying to move along as quick as I can. I threw a couple slides up here on challenges that we are facing right now. In law enforcement, there's a lot of challenges. One of those is finding qualified candidates. It is not just Pasco. It is all across the country is having problems recruiting quality candidates. Washington State is probably the most challenged just because of the legislative impacts. Washington State, as far as staffing of police officers, is the worst staffing ratio in the country. So we are the 51st worst state as far as staffing officers to population. So when you're looking at coming and being a police officer, the legislative impacts, and then the staffing levels, Washington isn't real attractive for where you want to be a police officer. So we are doing a lot of things to try and impact those. I'm not going to go through every one of these bullet points or all of the slides. I just want you to know that it is something that we focus on, and we are working to look at quality candidates. I want candidates. I want police officers. I want to serve a diverse community with a servant's heart that have passion for what they want to do and come out in what we have as a community. I don't necessarily want them policing Tacoma, Washington, or someplace else. I want people that want to police this community, and that's the type of people that we are recruiting and spending our time focusing on. So with about 5 or 7 minutes left, because I told them I would leave a few minutes for questions, I'm going to race through some crime stats and try and let you see where we are and where we are today. So Part 1 crimes, crime data is reported in 2 categories, Part 1 and Part 2 crimes. Part 1 crimes is the more serious crimes. You'll see that in 1986, when I started, Pasco led the state of Washington for Part 1 crimes. Wasn't a good place to be. And in those early years, the late 80s, the early 90s, when we had the cocaine wars of the 80s running across the country, Pasco was in the midst of that. And we ranked, as far as Part 1 crimes per population, in the top 10 of West Coast cities. You can take any California city, and we were right up there in the top 10 of those cities. Today, I'm proud to show where we are. We fall well below the state average and the national average. And of course, the challenge is how do we stay there, right? That's my challenge. And this just depicts kind of the same trend with violent crime and where we were with violent crime. When you pair out Part 1 and then you actually put the violent crime, we were a very violent city in 1986 in the late 80s to an extremely safe city right now, if you look at the numbers. Well, what do we as the police department, many of you in the community that have been here a long time, we continue to battle is perception and reputation. And it's factually not accurate if you look at the data. So that's one of the things that we continue to work on. Real quick, Part 1 crimes for last year are up 7%. Part 2 crimes are down 17%. That's not necessarily a good thing. Part 1 crimes are the serious crimes. Part 2 crimes, that's 17% reduction. Those are the crimes that police officers can impact. Those are the crimes that they can get into the community and get people when they're committing lesser crimes, misdemeanor crimes, before they commit serious crimes. So to have Part 2 crimes in a negative number is not necessarily a good thing. One of the things that you will see, though, in that number, you'll see things like drug offenses and weapon offenses. Those are all offenses related to officers not being able to focus on drug crimes anymore. As you know, the state made drug crimes less. It's only a misdemeanor now, and they get 3 warnings from a police officer before they can be arrested, and then prosecutors are encouraged not to take enforcement action against them once they get them into the criminal justice system. That's a whole nother talk and a whole nother emphasis of discussion, but just suffice it to say, as the police chief, I'll tell you that has a direct correlation to the increase in crime. And you can see it across the state of Washington. They can point back at that. In fact, I'll move on and I'll show you just how serious it is. In 2018, the Pasco Police Department in the city of Pasco had 3 fatal overdoses. 2019 we had 2. 2020 we had 8. Kind of seeing some fentanyl stuff hit the community a little bit. And the Blake decision was just coming down in 2020, which is the decision from the Supreme Court that made it legal for hard drugs. The legislature did get in the middle of it in 2021 and at least made it a misdemeanor, but you had to do the 3 warnings. And last year, we had 14 people killed by overdoses. It's serious business, serious deadly business when we can't get in the middle of it and help get people to the right places. Now what we do is we give them a form and say, hey, you should go get help. I don't know anybody out here that has or people in their family or friends addicted to drugs. I've done this for a lot of years, and I know of no one. There are people, but I know of no one that woke up and go, heroin, I'm going to kick it. I'm done. Today I'm done with heroin. It always takes an intervention, and many times the criminal justice system can get in the middle and help divert those. I'm not saying the criminal justice system is the savior, and if there's other ways to do it, we should be looking at it. But at least if we can get in the middle of that and use the criminal justice system, we can force them into recovery versus jail. And many times that's what helps people. Now, from a deadly standpoint, you can see that doesn't happen anymore either. And then shamelessly, I want to close plugging the Pasco Police Foundation. Board member Mike Miller's out there with us right now, and the great work that foundation does and is doing. They're able to raise funds for what we call Pasco Cares Fund, and that allows officers at any time that need to help people, that truly need help. Maybe they need a tank of fuel to get them somewhere. Maybe they need a pair of diapers. We have money available that our officers can go get in the middle. We can't spend taxpayer dollars on it, understood, but the foundation raises money that those officers can at least get out and help people when they desperately, desperately need it. In addition, the foundation does great work at recognizing our officers, and the great work that they do is we have officers retire from the department, the foundation is there. And then the foundation has taken another spin on helping us identify training and technology that I don't have budgetary dollars at that moment. Maybe we'll put in for them later on, but we don't have them, and the foundation's able to let us do experiments. One of those happens to be the Defensive Tactics Jitsu program that we have 10 or 12 people beta testing right now, and the foundation is underwriting that project, and it's a great effort and a great foundation. So, as you hear more about the foundation, as you see it out there, please help us support it. That's my shameless plug. And from there, I think I made it just over my time slot by a couple of minutes, but I promised I would leave questions or time for questions, because I know I talk fast. Any questions? Colonel.
Chief Roske, thank you very much for a very enlightening presentation. I think those of us who've been intimately involved with community policing since 2015 know that the police department we have now is vastly different from what we had then, thanks to your leadership.
Thank you.
And that of your predecessor as well. I wanted just to ask a question about the legislative impact, because it's troubled me also to see how these pieces of legislation were enacted last year in response to national situations which didn't really relate to what we have here in our communities, as I see it. But nevertheless, it kind of seemed to have gone over a bit more than it should have, and it's kind of hamstrung your efforts to provide responsible professional law enforcement. So I, in particular, struggle with the question of how you handle a suspect when you come upon a scene of a crime and you have to abide by probable cause standard as opposed to a reasonable suspicion. That troubles me greatly. But I wonder if there's a particular piece of legislation that really limits your ability to provide that quality professional policing that you've been talking about. If you could talk to that a bit. Thank you.
Colonel, you're obviously well-informed on the issues, because that is the major issue, the ability to, well, two of those. The ability to briefly detain someone under reasonable suspicion versus probable cause. It's a legal standard. I'd be happy to explain it one-on-one after this if you want to know more, but just suffice it to say that officers react to information that they're getting. They briefly detain people. They match a description, but that's a far, far lesser standard than probable cause that an officer has to have. So many times, so now with the new standard, the new law, we might recognize somebody that just climbed out of your window after your daughter had said someone was in there, a brief description of them, the only person around. That's not probable cause. But the first officer in the area might see that individual, might recognize them as matching the description, but they don't have probable cause. Now they have to let them walk away. If they don't, they can ask them to stop, but if they don't want to, they get to walk away. And we can't force them to wait. The legislature is got pieces of legislation underway right now to change that. The other piece is it falls right into there is vehicle pursuits. Much the same. You can't pursue a vehicle unless you have probable cause of a violent offense versus reasonable suspicion. We think it should be back like Terry stops at reasonable suspicion. And a good example is auto thefts. We were just talking about that. Last year to date, Pasco, this is statewide. I'll just give you Pasco numbers though. Pasco numbers, we had 14 auto thefts year to date. People stole a car. We're nearing 50 auto thefts. And when we do talk to people, when we are around suspects, they tell us, well, you can't stop us. We just drive off. You can't do anything. It took less than a year. And I would have told you this last year. It took less than a year for criminals to figure out that if nobody's going to stop them, why stop? Just keep going. Anyways, Troy?
Are you saying when you say please, they still won't stop and answer your question?
I know. And I'm a nice guy. I know. Colonel, did I answer that for you? Yes, sir. Thank you. Any other questions? Gracie?
Yes, you had a great Citizens Academy that I truly enjoyed, so if you haven't done it, I'll totally put a plug in for that.
Thank you.
But my question is, when is your next?
So look, very soon they'll be picking the dates. I think it's going to be the end of March-ish. In fact, I just saw the curriculum last week. I made some quick changes to it. I was just telling them I'm going to add you're going to get a whole extra day. So was it 8 weeks? It's going to be 9 weeks now, or we add an extra week. We're going to do one night on just technology, on the technology that we have, not no body-worn cameras and everything. There's a whole night of just that. So thank you. Ma'am?
I love the fact that on the foundation you guys are going to start doing like jujitsu and defense trainings. I love that, and I love that you are wanting to provide more mental health available to the community. My question is, are you going to have or do you currently have mental health systems in place for your team?
We do, they're not sufficient, and we're concerned about the viability of them. Hence, I think the reason, I see one of the commissioners is out here, in fact, from Franklin County. Both counties passed the tax, which is going to help us get in front of this, because we realize that what we have today is not adequate, and it's actually going backwards. So fortunately, both counties have stepped up and said, we are going to fix this. So
just a comment from the Pasco Police Foundation Board. We just met on this Friday, and we had, the chief has been providing great leadership, one. Two, he's galvanizing the different police officers over, I'll call them different subcommittees, that is replying or formulating plans for how they can be better involved in the community. And you should have just seen the excitement, because I believe you had roughly 12 to 15 officers there that are all remarking about things like we have a futsal program that is coming out through the City of Parks and Rec and with the Pasco Police Officers Department Foundation, and a couple other things that are going on, and you can just see the excitement going on there. One reason when we talk about raising money, this group has raised close to $130,000 just in the last 2.5, 3 years most. And so there's money there that we're trying to give back, one to the police officers, but also
not personally to the officers, but to the two programs, right? Thank you.
Gotta make sure I say that correctly.
Thanks, Mike.
You should just see the excitement that's going on, because these police officers, we know that they're, walk a tight line there between things that they can and can't do. And they are encouraged. Morale is just growing big time. You can see that in this meeting just on Friday. So we need to make sure that, we want to hold them to a standard, and the chief is doing a great job of that. At the same time, they need to know that we have their backs as well. And I think this is happening, so.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
Give money, give money.
Thank you. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how many police departments were involved with the event in Richland last week?
I don't know how many. Every metro, that came out as an all call on the radio. So every police department went, sheriff's department, and we've trained for this over the years, and we've used it in, that's the largest scale we've ever used in the metro area, but it went off very, very well. And unfortunately, it's a tragic event, but it went off very well. Other questions?
My question is, how many police officers do you have? You said you had a staff of 94, but that's right.
96, we have 86 authorized strength. I think we have 6 openings right now, 6 or 7 at any given time with retirements and then vacancies that we've had, but we're authorized 86.
When you say authorized, what do you mean? Like
The budget has money sitting there for 86 of them that we can hire. So, good stuff. Well, let me just close by, like I opened, it's nice to be in front of a group of friends. I want you to know that I'm very proud of the officers in this city, in this community, and I want you to be proud of them. I want you to help us engage with them, and we're going to make Pasco even better. It's the greatest of the 3 cities. Nothing against anybody that lives in the other 2, but if their chiefs were up here, they'd be saying the same thing. But we're going to make it even a better place, and we are ready for the growth. Bring it on. Let's go. So thank you. Anything else? Thank you.
Aw.
Actually, let me say a little something
Yes.
about this wine. Before we announce the winner, I do want to say a little something about the wine. So this is Claire Seller's Busty Blush. They're selling it now online. And there's a mission behind that because for every $25 bottle sold online, $20 goes to the Tri-City Cancer Center for mammograms for women, because Krista Whitelatch, who is the owner, recently was diagnosed with breast cancer. So they came out with this, and so it's a little bit of a purpose. So we're thankful that they donated some to us to give away to encourage people to buy some online. So clairesellers.com. So with that, you get to announce the winner.
I get to hand out the winner. And the winner today is Ms. Erica Congratulations. And that will conclude us today, and I want to thank Chief Roske again and the police department. We love you all, and thank you for what you do. So, and thank you to the Red Lion once again for hosting us. And think about breakfast with the city of Pasco, and hope to see you there. And we hope to see you next month. Thanks for supporting our chamber as well. So, good go. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.